Hello and welcome back to the world of the spirit consciousness. This is a continuation of the book study session on the astral body and other astral phenomena. We are in the middle of the 14th module dealing with spiritualism. In this particular video of spiritualism, we shall be discussing the types of entities that may communicate in a science, some caveats, and some concluding thoughts on spiritualism. So we've already discussed a few topics on this in the previous video. Let us dive straight through into the types of entities who may communicate in a seance. So we may see some departed humans in the astral world, departed humans who are in Devachan, shades, shells and vitalized shells, nature spirits, the medium's ego, adepts, nirmanakayas, and ordinary people posing as great world teachers. So coming to the departed humans in the astral world, so this is being drawn from the module on after death life. So victims of suicide and sudden death, as we had seen in that module, including the executed criminals, have been disconnected from the physical life all of a sudden. They are more probable to be attracted to a medium in order to fulfill its craving for life, the Trishna. As a result, the medium causes the development of a new group of skandhas. For that, you may refer to module 15 on rebirth. So this may result into a new body made up of much worse features and desires than the one which was lost. This will encourage unspeakable evils for the ego, and the rebirth will be in an existence much worse than earlier. Coming to the departed humans in Devachan, so a more elaborate explanation is needed to understand the communication with a being who is in the heaven world or the Devachan. If the sensitive or the medium has pure and very high thoughts, their liberated ego may advance to the Devachanic world and contact a being there. It is often interpreted as the Devachanic entity having come to the medium, which actually the truth is the opposite. The ego of the medium rises to the level of the being in Devachan. Due to the special state of consciousness of the Devachanic entities, ones that we cannot discuss here, the messages received are not reliable. So the medium or the sensitive can only understand what a specific entity understands. So if generalizations are made, it paves the way for inaccuracies because each entity has its own department in the heaven world. So besides this cause, it is possible that a medium's own nature and ideas will control the type of communication. This is likely to happen even though the thoughts, sentiments, and knowledge of the Devachanic entity form the core message. So let us discuss shades, shells, and white light shields. So we had discussed partly in the module on astral entities. So a shade may also appear and communicate at seances. It looks exactly like the deceased, has the individual's memories, peculiarities, and is mistaken as the deceased. It is itself not aware that it is an imitation. It is actually a soulless bundle of the lowest qualities of the deceased. Coming to shells, so a shell also bears or shows a precise resemblance to the deceased entity, but it is their astral corpse devoid of any particle of the mind. So when it comes in contact with the medium's aura, it is temporarily stimulated into a parody of the actual entity. A vitalized shell may also communicate via a medium. It is an astral corpse vitalized by an artificial elemental and is always evil. So naturally, it poses a huge threat at the spiritual sciences. These apparitions have no conscious or good impulses and are trending towards disintegration. Hence, it can only do bad. So this is whether by extending their vitality with the help of vampirism and seances, or contaminating the medium and the sitters with undesirable types of astral connections. So minor vampires like shades, suicides, and vitalized shells draw out vitality from the humans that they can influence. This is why medium and sitters usually feel tired and feel weakness post physical seance. An occult student is guided on how to protect himself or herself from such endeavors. Without being aware of it, someone who crosses their path will find it difficult to resist being drained out by them. A lot of spiritual communications are called intellectually fruitless because the use of shades and shells at seances. There won't be anything original in their so called intellectuality because it is simply reproduced knowledge. There will be an absence of new and independent thought. Coming to nature spirits. So, nature spirits are often active at seances. This is explained in the module on astral entities non human. Several seance room phenomena, when rationally assessed, are nothing but pranks played by subhuman forces. These are definitely not done by spirits who are not capable of such silly behavior. So the medium's ego may also communicate. Let us see quickly what it is about. So the medium is sincere and pure and works towards the light. This upward aim meets the light flowing downward from a high nature and lights up the lower consciousness. Next, the lower mind is united with the higher sources for some time. The latter, or the higher mind, can then transfer as much knowledge of the higher mind that the lower one can sustain. Hence, some intellectual communication coming via the medium may actually be from his or her own higher ego. So, the adepts may also sometimes communicate in a seance. So, an adept or a master usually has a different from ordinary method of communicating with his pupils. If the adept's master is a medium, it is likely that the master's message is mistaken as the one from an ordinary spirit. Coming to the Nirmanakayas. So Nirmanakaya, as we have seen, is an individual completely devoid of all faults and who has shed the physical body aside. They maintain the lower principles, however, and they're linked to the earth only to help humankind evolve. Such high levels of entities rarely communicate via a medium. If at all, they communicate only through someone who has a very pure and lofty nature. So, to understand this better, one can refer the module on astral entities. Finally, ordinary people posing as great world teachers. So an individual with vast experience as a medium knows that there are large number of ordinary people on the astral plane likely to fervently pose as great world teachers. Generally, they have genuine intentions and actually believe that they have the knowledge that can save the world. They realize that the worldly things are simply meaningless. To their credit, they rightly feel that influencing humans with their own ideas will drastically change the whole world. So these communicating entities convince the medium into believing that they have exclusive and excellent knowledge and they humbly refused to be called great for it. The sitters imagine one of them to be an archangel or maybe even a direct manifestation of a deity. Unfortunately, such entities often forget that when they were alive on the physical plane, others were making such communications via several mediums and he or she didn't pay any heed to it. She or he doesn't understand that in a similar fashion, others who are still involved with worldly affairs won't pay heed to him or her and will not agree to be affected by his or her communications. So at times, Entities take name of famous personalities of or higher entities like Archangel Michael. This is done from the doubtfully excusable aim that their guidance are likely to be taken seriously as compared to a layman's name. To only gain acceptance for which they wish to communicate, these entities will also impersonate the masters whose students are full of high regard for them. There are also entities who try to harm a master's work by taking his appearance and impacting the student. They may be successful in producing an exactly alike physical appearance. However, it is nearly impossible for them to exactly impersonate a master's causal body. Hence, someone with causal sight will not be misled by such an imitation. So, in some cases, the fraternity members of occultists who initiated the spiritualistic movement have themselves provided highly invaluable guidance on very interesting subjects via a medium. However, this has exclusively occurred at absolutely private family seances and never at paid public performances. The voice of silence gives a wise instruction: seek not thy guru in these Mayavic regions. One must never accept any guidance from a self appointed teacher on the astral plane. Any advice coming from the astral world should be taken exactly as one would on the physical plane. Guidance should be examined by intellect and conscience and then taken into consideration. So, having seen types of entities who may communicate in a science, let us now look at some caveats in dealing with members on the astral plane. So, an individual is as dependable after death as she or he was during the physical lifetime. A person can spend several years on the astral plane and still not have more knowledge than the physical world. On that basis, one should deal with the astral or the any higher level communication in the same way as suggestions are made in the physical world. A spirit that manifests is precisely what it says it is, but also frequently nothing of that type. It is difficult for an ordinary sitter to differentiate the true from the false. Because the astral resources can be used to a wide extent to convince people on the physical plane, and even the most convincing proof is not reliable. Surely, genuine entities have made important communications at seances, but it is almost impossible for an average sitter to not be deceived in several ways. So, having looked at the other caveats, so let us review the concluding thoughts on spiritualism. So, the above mentioned sources helps us understand from where the several communications from the astral world may be received. According to Blavatsky, the variety of the causes of phenomena is great, and we need to be an adept and actually look into and examine what transpires in order to be able to explain in each case what really underlies it. In addition to the sentence, it can be stated that an ordinary individual can do the same things on the astral plane after death as he could on the physical plane before death. It is easy to receive communications in trance, written form, or by utilizing the acquired and trained astral powers from manifested and unmanifested individuals. Hence, it is advisable to develop the power of one's own soul instead of ignorantly engaging in harmful experiments. This way, the knowledge can be gained safely and evolution can also be advanced. Humankind must understand that death doesn't hold them back, and the key to the prison of physical body is in their own hands if they're willing to learn how to use it. After evaluating the accessible evidence for and against spiritualism, it appears that if utilized with care and prudence, spiritualism is justified in trying to disintegrate materialism. Once the materialism is overcome, it seems dangerous to continue it. This is true for the living and dead alike. It is recommended to practice it with utmost safety and discretion as a general rule in peculiar cases. So, with that, we have come to an end on the topic on spiritualism. The next module will be on astral death and rebirth. Stay tuned.